In our sport, one man's become synonymous with Hawaii. Mark Rolfing is one of the great success stories. Early days, professional on the fringes, had some game, but a better sense for business and relationship building. Ended up on Maui, where he became a fixture, later a commentator whose command of the game and distinctive voice made him a rock star on the soundtrack of the tour for the last nearly 40 years. And we welcome in pal Mark Rolfing. Rolf, how are you? I'm wondering.
I'm great, Rich. It's great to see you. We're missing a few things here this week, but glad to have you.
Rolf, what happened? We try to condense this because I don't have a ton of time. But what happened, and what is the future for the PGA Tour, not just on Kapalua, but at the Sony Open next week in Honolulu?
It's complicated. There's a number of things that happened. When I look back at the history here, Rich, Sentry's been involved since 2017, and I've been involved with them all the way. But a lot has changed since then in the game. If you think about it, the NFL playoffs have expanded. We have way more games now in January. We've got TGL running all through January, and that field and that whole group is going to expand also. And we've got the DP World Tour that plays 3 big events in January over there in the Middle East. So I really think that the difficulty for Hawaii is going to be January. It's very, very crowded. Then when you couple that, Rich, with what has happened to Maui in the last 5 years, it's just amazing. This little island that we're on here, we had COVID like everybody else, yes. But we had a just unbelievable, horrific wildfire in Lahaina in 2003. And now we've got a drought that's the worst in history on the island in 2005. So you put all those things together and you start looking at the complications that creates for the PGA Tour in trying to schedule here. We had a drought alert that came to us in the summertime. We had the water not totally turned off, but almost totally turned off. And frankly, the PGA Tour had nowhere to turn. They had to make a decision as to whether or not in August they thought that they could play the tournament. In January, the decision was that they weren't sure. They weren't thinking it was likely. And so they had to cancel, and I totally understand.
What about the future?
You know, the future is a little bit murky right now. We've heard about less. We've heard about contraction of the PGA Tour schedule. I feel pretty comfortable that January is not going to be the future of golf here on Maui in particular. I could see the tour schedule starting close to the Super Bowl. I am very, very hopeful that there will be golf played here in Hawaii, and I think it'll be sometime early in the year. I just don't know when. The Sentry folks are so committed to playing a big, big event. We would love to see it still start the season. And maybe that's sometime right around Super Bowl, right before, maybe right after. It's hard to say. But I still think there's some hope. We're not giving up hope yet. We're working as hard as we can. But the number one issue for us is solving this water delivery system issue, which is not yet solved.
What do you think of Brooks potentially taking that first step to come back to the PGA Tour?
Boy, I just hope it's the beginning of a lot more happening. I thought that he really handled himself very nicely throughout this entire thing with Liv. And I think it's a big step because I think somebody's going to follow pretty quickly. And if that were to happen to be Bryson DeChambeau, then you would see a lot more happen.
Generally speaking, these changes that are being discussed for the PGA Tour and the operative word scarcity, how do you feel about that, Rolf?
Well, if you look at the NFL, I mean, the NFL plays 17 games plus the playoffs, a couple of preseason games. They have created scarcity. They have created demand. And I think the PGA Tour schedule probably got a little bit too big. I think there are a few too many tournaments. The guys need an off season. We're seeing more and more players have gotten hurt toward the end of the year. And I like the idea of a shorter schedule, give the players some time off, and then go around the rest of the world in the fall and the winter time and play. But there are going to be some tournaments that I think are going to be hurt because of this. A few that have had their spot early in the schedule forever and ever. We really have to work that out. We can't forget about the smaller tournaments, just like the one next week over in Honolulu, the Sony. I mean, that one's been around since 1965. My heavens, we got to really think about that.
You think we'll see Tiger play PGA Tour champion senior golf in 2026?
I don't
Even
know.
a little bit.
I'm sure he is tempted. My kind of hope is that he doesn't, Rich. I think Tiger has carved a tremendous legacy on the golf course that'll never, ever be challenged again. I truly don't think it will be, even as good as Scottie Scheffler is right now. But where Tiger has not really carved a total legacy is off the golf course. And I think there's a chance that he can still do what his dad was saying and change the world big time. And I think the second half of his life, if it was dedicated to off the course type of activities, the one that he's engaged in now, which is the Future Competitions Committee, I think all of that is going to be good. And I love to see him do more and more charity work. He's really good at that.
Well, they're celebrating 30 years of the TGR Foundation with the Earlwood Scholarship. They have had an enormous impact in the lives of young people with education. Rolf, promise me next week you'll talk trade winds extensively, because I can't get off the mark in a new year until you've discussed trade winds in Hawaii.
I can do that, Richie, but right now it's a Kona wind, just so you know. That's the opposite direction. But this is one of the
Kona
prettiest
trades.
days I've ever seen.
All right, Rolf, thank you so much. Mark Rolfing.